This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Thank you so much, Menahel. Thank you, Rabbi Shepherd, for the opportunity to share a few words. The Shus, the Menahel, and Chashva Rabbeim. So the Menahel just mentioned about the tzara that Klal Yisrael finds itself in Russia and the Ukraine. I remember this past summer, I visited the Ukraine and I went to the city of Lvov, where many Yidden are now flocking to. And in Lvov you have the Kvarim of the Taz, the Sma, the Shalom Meshiv, the Yeshuas Yaakov, the Magen Giborim, the Chacham Tzvi. They're all buried in the city of Lvov. And actually, I'm very concerned. The city of Kiev is under attack. And do you know who's buried in the city of Kiev? They recently made a monument for him. They didn't know he was buried for over 100 years. The Malbim is right there in Kiev by Babi Yar. But actually, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said the Malbim was in transit when he died. The Malbim was a Rav in many, many cities. And actually, the Malbim was hounded. The Reform hounded the Malbim. So the Malbim was considered a political criminal in different regions and different countries, and he was on his way from one city to the next, and he died in Kiev, which was not a Jewish city, and the Jewish world could not understand why the Gadol Hadar died. It was like a Meis Mitzvah, he had nowhere to be buried. And Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, we don't know the Cheshbonos of Hashem, but if the Malbim is there, because the Malbim has to protect whatever Yidden would be there, and maybe now the Malbim should offer protection to all the Yidden there in Kiev. I want to share with you a very interesting question. In the morning, the earliest time of morning is called Alois HaShachar. What does it look like outside at Alois HaShachar? It's pitch black. It's pitch black. You can't see 2 inches in front of you. You could look at the tzitzis, you don't even know what color it is. You don't know if it's black or white at Alois. But the halacha is it's day, it's Alois HaShachar. And if you read the Megillah, you would be Yotzei. If you said Hallel, you would be Yotzei. And if you did Bris Milah, you would be Yotzei, because it's day, even though it's pitch black outside. And then there's another time, which is considered nighttime, and it's broad daylight. It's called Shkias HaChama. Shkias HaChama, the sun set. Outside, it's broad daylight. But according to many poskim, it's considered night. I mean, the Mishnah Berurah says you can't daven mincha anymore. Mishnah Berurah says better to daven mincha before the shkia without a minyan than to daven mincha after the shkia with a minyan. Okay, there are different viewpoints, different rulings of the poskim. But l'maisa, shkias hachama is night, even though it's light. This is the question of the Alter of Slabodka. Why is it Alois HaShachar is considered day, even though it's dark outside, and Shkias HaChama is considered night, even though it is broad daylight? Here's the answer. And this is a thought I would like to share with you young men, in terms of, here you are. What grades is this? 9th, 10th, 11th? 9th grade. So what is that? 15, 14? Masha Hukazah. What is the main focus and objective that a young man should have during these formative years of Mesivta? Says the Alter of Slabodka, a very important idea. And that is, in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is not so important where you are. More important is, where are you headed? What direction are you headed in? And if it's dark outside, and it's pitch black, but it's headed toward the daytime, it's considered day. And therefore, Alois HaShachar is considered the daytime. And if it's broad daylight, but the sun is setting and the night is coming, it's considered night, even though it's light outside. And it's the same thing in Judaism and Yiddishkeit, in learning and Avodas Hashem. It's not so important where you are, more important is, where am I headed? What's my direction? It doesn't matter. Right now I can't read Gemara, Rashi, Tosfos so well, or I'm not on such a high madrega, but nevertheless the question is, where am I headed? What is my ratzon? What is my desire? I'll share with you one simple thought. You know, there's a mitzvah if you have a guest. So you give the guest food, you give the guest drink. There's one additional mitzvah, there's one additional element of Hachnasas Archim. Anybody know what it is? What do you say?
When they leave, you escort them out.
You escort them out. Very good. What's your name?
Little Wise.
Yehuda, that's a great name. So Yehuda is saying, besides my son, also named Yehuda. But you have to give the guest something to eat. You give the guest something to drink. You have to walk the guest out. It's called levaya, eshal, achila shia levaya. What's the reason you have to escort him out? The Gemara says if you escort him, he'll be protected. So the Marsha asks, why? Because you escorted him 4 amos, will he be protected? The guy's going to be walking through the hood. He's going to be walking through a very dangerous neighborhood. You escorted him 4 amos. Very nice. But then you left him. You abandoned him. And now he's going to be walking all alone in this terrible neighborhood. So how's he going to be protected? So listen to this Marsha. It says, Marsha, you walked him 4 amos. So you showed that you want to support him and you want him to be protected. It's your Ratzain that he should be protected. So the Rebbeinu Shalom looks down from Shemayim and he sees it's the Ratzain of a Jew to want to protect another Yid. So like the Manal mentioned in Ashrei, Hashem says, oh, you want to protect him? Ritzain Yirei of Yaseh. I'll do what you want. You wanted to protect him, so I will protect him. So think about it. The guy's walking all by himself in a bad neighborhood, and there are people lurking in the bushes, and Hashem's going to hold them at bay. Hashem's going to protect this Yid walking through. Why? Because there was a Jew 20 minutes before who wanted to protect him, and Hashem runs the world by performing the will of good Jewish people who want things. And if you want the right thing, Hashem will do it. So let's think for a moment. If wanting to protect someone is so chashuv in the eyes of Hashem, that Hashem will say, oh, you want to protect him? I'll protect him. So imagine if a boy comes to yeshiva and he looks at the shelf and he says, the shas, it's a big shas. I don't know it yet. I want to know it. I want to know Chumash with Rashi, with Ramban. I want to know the Sifrei Musar. I want to know Mishnayos. Hashem says, well, you want to know it? I'll help you out. I'll do what you want. Ritzain Yirei of Yaseh. So these formative years, it's important to establish in our own minds what we really want in life. I want to become a Talmid Chacham. I want to make a contribution to Klal Yisrael. And even if we're not holding there, the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't look at us by where we are. The Rebbeinu Shalom looks at us based on where we're headed and what we want. And the Rebbeinu Shalom should give us all great siyata d'shmaya to help us in our limudim and everything we do. Thank you for listening, and Agun Shabbos. Yeah.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.